right, everybody, let's take our seats. We want to get you guys out of here on time today. He's not giving you another 5 minutes. Brandon's back there making executive decisions. All right. So they're giving you a handout right now. You do not need it right now, but just hang on to it. You will need it for this particular in a little bit. All right. We are going to keep moving forward. And you're going to treat me royally by listening. Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. How is that possible? Oh, so those of you guys who are helping me today, you don't take one. Only give it to the people who are supposed to be here today. There's some people that love RFK so much they're here even though they don't have to be. So look at them. Aw. Okay. Moving right along, as my fourth grade teacher would say. Mrs. Carpenter. So we are going to talk, just do a quick introduction to TBRI, which is Trust-Based Relational Intervention. Maybe a spouse can share. We're only doing kind of an introduction on this today, and we're going to go further in depth at the June training. That's pretty much what June training is all about, is connecting with our kids. So, trust-based relational intervention is, and you need your notes for this. You guys don't need the handout right now. You will need it later. Okay, so trust-based relational intervention is designed to meet the basic relational and developmental needs of children impacted by trauma. The basic relational and developmental needs of children impacted by trauma. It also equips the adults with tools and insights needed to help them heal, learn, and grow. So if you're ever like, I'm not sure how to handle this, this is what TBRI is all about. It is attachment-based, trauma-informed, evidence-based, and whole child, like we referenced earlier. And the heartbeat of TBRI is connection. It is all about connection. It is all about relationships. So the whole reason why we watched those videos about the brain and we talked about how trauma affects the brain is because if we understand, first of all, how the brain should be developing, if we understand optimal development, then we understand the way trauma has impacted that development, then we can better connect and interpret, as you guys were talking about, interpret what our campers need. Okay, so it's all about connecting caregivers to the heart of a child who's been harmed. It addresses trauma at the root. So Amanda alluded to this earlier, and I think the video did too, but the goal is to meet the basic needs of the child that were not met by their caregiver, right? So as she talked about, there was on the video, there was that scale, and it talked about feeling afraid, lonely, and if the caregiver comes and brings warmth, then it's balanced out, right? And they feel that safety and that security, and everything's cool. But if that doesn't take place, if those basic needs aren't met, then they don't have any way to cope with that. So they learn new survival skills. And so our job then, like Amanda said, sometimes they will behave in a way that's younger than their biological age. So you might see a camper who's 10 years old, but they're behaving like a 7-year-old. And so telling them to act their age is not going to do any good. They don't know how to do that. So we just need to meet them at their level where they are developmentally, and that's why we learn we learn about TBRI. Their capacity to regulate has been stolen from them. So TBRI teaches us to help them regulate, to work alongside of them and help them regulate. And there's a difference between willful disobedience and survival behaviors. So we have to get it, especially if you're a parent, you have to get it out of your head that their undesirable behavior is rebellion or not purposeful. It's not necessarily, well, it can be purposeful, but because they might be testing you. But it's not like with our own kids, if they behave a certain way, and we know they know better a lot of times, and these kids may not. So behavior is the language of unmet needs. And so some of those of you who have been to camp, what are some of the behaviors that you may see or that you have seen at camp that was the language of an unmet need? Like Keith described the withdrawal of his camper, the head going down, the becoming quiet because he couldn't read and he was embarrassed. And so Keith interpreted that. But what other behaviors have you seen that was more about an unmet need? Maddie. Right. She said some of the kids at mealtime won't finish a plate but want to go get more because they have food insecurity. Jacob. Yes. They need predictability. Right. So sometimes you'll see them get anxious about what's next, what are we doing, what's going on? And they want to see your schedule sometimes. Jeff, you had your hand up. Running, yes. Running away. Who's had a runner here? What counselors have had a runner? Who's had to run after a camper? Is it too deep? Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Sometimes that's the flight, right? They're off. Who's followed a runner on a golf cart because they just run? Me and Miguel. We just follow them behind slow. Okay, we'll just get to do something. Jeanette. Yes. Yes. So we might go, what are you doing? Why, but they're not trying to be disobedient. They're worried about being able to eat later. And we'll talk about how to deal with that. Reagan. Right. They're not necessarily being defiant about not wanting to move on. What are some defiant behaviors you would classify as defiant? Chris, were you?
So the last year I was at camp, my camper just kind of pretended I didn't exist. And he would do everything else, like he would participate, but he just wouldn't really acknowledge me. But it was because it was his last year at camp, it was his last year at mentoring club, so I just don't really think he wanted to connect because he knew I was going away.
Yes. Yep. Crystal. Mm-hmm. She ghosted you. Yeah. Mhm. 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 So I'm going to describe a scenario for you that happened at camp, and I want you to think about what do you think was the unmet need? So we are getting ready to have a meal, and the kids are gathering outside the cafeteria, and I'm standing out there making sure that everything's going okay before we let them in the door, and some of the boys had gotten in line to go into the door, and all of a sudden I see, as one boy ran up to get in line behind another one, he accidentally nudges him. This boy turns around and grabs the other one by the throat. What was the unmet need? What was the threat? Maybe. Personal space. We go, was that an overreaction? A little one. I had to step between them. Okay, we're not going to choke anybody today. But, oh, please let go, please let go. But was that kid, did he really want to hurt someone? I mean, probably he felt like he did. I mean, but really, if we saw one of our kids do something like that, we'd probably yell, maybe grab them, right? Because they know better. Grabbing kids, right? What does that teach if we grab, like the video, yeah, we've all done it, all of us parents. Anyway, so the point is we need to respond to them differently than we would our own children or church kids or whatever, kids that have fully attached relationships with their caregivers. This is not them. And we have to assume that behavior is coming from a place of fear or stress rather than rebellion. So what makes it challenging to see beyond a child's behavior for you? Jacob. Perfect. He's just getting it out there. So treat Jacob royally at camp and write him lots of heart notes. He needs them. What makes it difficult for us to see to look beyond their behavior? Linda? I'm tired. Yes, when we're tired. Yeah. Chad? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're basing our response on our experience and through our filters. So we're looking at the situation as how would I respond to that? And we can't do that because we haven't walked in their shoes. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know, what they're feeling, their fear or their stress response. So you guys are awesome. We are on time and everything today. You guys are fantastic. You're learning fast. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Amanda again as we talk about giving voice to children. Look at her face. She's like, what? You can use this. Or I can do it. I don't care. Okay, she can do it. She can do it with her eyes.